What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the show. So Speaker McCarthy had a press conference yesterday. I want to continue and show you guys a little bit more of this. There's some more things that I want to talk about when it comes to some of the things that he said. So that's what we're going to focus on in this video. But first off, if you guys can do me a favor, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that little bell notification, and then click all. By clicking all, you'll get notified anytime we post a video. We do daily videos here. And so by clicking the bell notification and clicking all, you should be getting updated every day. And just a reminder, if you are not getting notifications, let me know in the comments below and follow me on Twitter at the TEC Show Live. Okay, so let's go ahead and continue. This is the next question here. So I did a video yesterday, so if you didn't catch that video, you might want to catch that one. There are a few questions that the press asked there, and we're going to continue with the discussion here. Here we go.
But our defense cuts on the table.
No. Defense, when you're sitting, the president was just at G7 talking about the fear and the challenge of what China's doing. We watched what's happening in Ukraine. We've watched the amount of weaponry we had to provide to Ukraine. We don't want to make America in a threatening position. So no, defense should not be on the table. It's a responsibility. I'm a person who believes in limited government, and it is a responsibility of those to make sure we have the defense of this nation, and that would be a mistake.
Okay, so very, very interesting, right? Defense off the table. We spend the vast majority of our money is spent on our national defense, but you're going to take that off the table when it comes to cuts. And so what that will mean is you're going to have to cut more in all the other areas. And so it would make sense to me, if you are going to make cuts, if we're spending too much money, we would look at everything and we would go across the board and say we need to reduce spending across the board. However, he's not saying that. He's saying defense spending, no, we need to, we're not going to make any cuts when it comes to defense spending, but we're going to make cuts everywhere else. And that is a huge problem. I agree with him when it comes to our national defense. We need to be safe and secure. However, I'm sure there's wasteful spending in the national defense as well as all these other areas, if he's saying that. I mean, you can't tell me that there's wasteful spending in all these different other areas, but there's no wasteful spending when it comes to national defense. I just don't buy that. I don't agree with that. And so the fact that he's saying that it's off the table, that should raise a red flag to anyone, because you should be looking at this and saying, okay, well, we spend a lot of money in the national defense. Maybe we should look at some of that spending and make some cuts there too, because that will help us bring down our deficit as well. But not going to do it. Off the table. It just doesn't make any sense to me. It's not, to me, that's not logical. And that's why when we're talking about this and we're saying that, you know, this is all political. This is all political. Okay, they're taking the things that they want to keep. They don't want to raise taxes on the wealthy. They don't want to cut defense. They're taking all their key points that they want to stick by when it comes to the political platform, the Republican platform. They're looking at that. They're not looking at the fact that if you're going to make cuts, you really should be looking at everything, and you should be making cuts to everything if you want to get out of this mess. If we're spending too much, we're probably spending too much in the national defense as well.
Doesn't agree to make any concessions, Mr. Speaker.
3-day rule, given that this has to pass the House, has to pass the Senate. We're 9 days out. Is that something that you're looking at?
Looking to do something?
To waive the 3-day
No, I'm not going to waive the 3-day rule, because we have the 3-day rule for a reason. You lend your voice to your elected officials. You want to make sure they have their voice. If you want to move a bill such as this, and I know in past Congresses under Speaker Pelosi it was different, they would move trillions of dollars in a day and nobody could read the bill. I'm not going to be afraid of what the agreement comes in the end. Because I would sit that bill down and I would give everybody 72 hours so everybody knows what they're voting on. The American public, yes.
Is there a drop-dead date where you need to have a deal in order to get it through the House?
Look, I've always felt, looking back before, we should already be here. And as I told you, I've never wanted to be here. All of my actions from the day I became Speaker was to try to make sure we weren't here. Unfortunately, we went 97 days where people said they wouldn't talk to us. We went more than 100 days, said you couldn't negotiate on this. We're finally at that point. Had we started this in February, we could have been done long before the deadline.
What's the real target behind
Where
the
did you
bill?
leave it? Are you meeting tomorrow? Or
Well, we instructed Chairman McHenry and others and in the White House to come back together based upon our discussions in the room and try to find where we can get to common ground there.
Speaker,
Yes.
the president was just like 90 minutes ago. He was talking about loopholes and people who make up to $400,000 a year. You're telling me that new revenue is totally off the table?
Were you here earlier? So I don't want to repeat myself, but in the 50 years of how much money government has brought in, we normally bring in 17% of GDP. So we're bringing in almost 20%. Only 2 times in the modern history of this country, 1944 and 2000, have we ever brought in this higher percent. And it's more money than ever before. So if I ran my household where I brought in more money than ever before, but I owe more money than I make in my entire year, I don't think it's a revenue problem. It's a spending problem. It's the same thing with government, because for 50 years in government, we normally only spend 21% of GDP. But when the Democrats took over, they raised that up to more than 24%. We've never spent this high, and it's going to 25. So if you don't tackle the problems that have created, you're never going to solve it. So the answer to your question again that asked earlier is no. We're not looking at revenues, and if you think to put some type of taxes would only hurt our economy for one. Secondly, we're already in a challenge where they raise so much inflation based upon their spending. That would be a stupid thing to do, and you really need to tackle the real problem. Look, I've always tried to explain. To me, a debt ceiling is providing your child a credit card. They hit the limit, and year after year, all you did was raise the limit. You did nothing about their spending. And all of a sudden, you owe more on the credit card than you make the entire year. Because our debt, we owe more than the size of our economy by 20%. So should you just raise the debt limit again? Is it so arcane to say, should we look at where we're spending if we're spending higher than we average do in 50 years? Should it be arcane that we pull money back that we appropriated during COVID but wasn't spent? Is it odd to show that in our history, when we have work requirements, we help more people get jobs, and that helps Social Security and Medicare because more people are paying in? Is it odd that we say we should be energy independent, so you lower the price of energy, which helps lower inflation, that makes us less dependent on China? I don't think we're in a weird place here. It's odd that only in Washington you have to fight so hard to make this a reality, and that's what we're talking about.
Okay, so I'm sure you've heard Speaker McCarthy talk about this the credit card, give a kid the credit card. First off, he's comparing Congress, he's comparing his colleagues, him and his colleagues, to children. And you know what? He's probably right. When it comes down to it, they're not responsible, and they spend too much money. Okay, now Speaker McCarthy is not his first term as a representative. He's been there before. He's been there years before. He's spent a lot of this money that he's talking about. And so it's really crazy to listen to someone tell you when it comes to the credit card, you just raise the limit? No, you don't raise the limit. What you do is you take that credit card from the kid, which we need to take the credit card from Congress because they don't know how to spend, and you pay the bill. And I would say first you need to pay the bill, and he's never addressing that. He's always talking about, well, you don't just raise the limit. No, you actually pay the bill. That's what you want to do first. And then when it comes to the credit card and when it comes to the Congress not being able to handle themselves when it comes to spending, because this is both Democrats and Republicans that are spending, and they've been doing this for years. And so it's almost comical to listen to him talk like this and say, well, yeah, you don't raise the limit. You find out the reason why the kid is spending so much money. And so maybe we should have more accountability when it comes to these Congress people and how they spend the money. Maybe we should have more information when it comes to that, because the reality is we're the boss. We should be the boss. We should be controlling what these politicians do because they're there to represent us. And so, yeah, maybe more regulation when it comes to Congress. I agree with that. But when it comes down to it, he continues to say this about the whole giving the kid the credit card. Yes, you know what? You guys are children. You are not spending the way that you should be spending. You are overspending every year, and that's why we have a $32 trillion debt. It's because of Congress. It's not because of us. We're entrusting you with our tax dollars, and you guys are choosing to spend recklessly. So I want to know what you guys think about all this, so let me know down below. I'll have more of this press conference in the future. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe for more, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye.